This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshido. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do.
What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, the lean builder, Hoots on the ground with No Bullshido. And today I got someone super awesome and has been a huge part of my life over the last year or so, Mr. Derek Sinnott. Say what's up to the Lean Builder Nation.
Hey, Adam, how are things with you? The weather looks good over your side.
Things are beautiful here. How is the weather over there, huh?
Typical Irish weather here. Rain, cold at the moment. It's getting better, though, but it's not great at the moment.
Yeah, I was over there not long ago and someone told me, hey, it only rains twice in Ireland. It rains the first time for about 5 months, and then you get a couple weeks off, and then it rains the second time for 6 months, huh?
And sometimes it rains between then as well. It rains between the showers is what they say over here. We've had a particularly wet and troubling springtime here at the moment. So we have some construction professionals who are under a little bit of pressure with civils works and stuff. So they're complaining a little bit at the moment that it's difficult going, but we're used to it in some sense.
No doubt. If you can't tell by the conversation, my friend Derek is in Ireland. I think, Derek, you're known as being someone that asks hard questions, that challenges processes, right? The status quo. I got a ton of respect for you because, like me, you're also a pracademic. I love that term. I use that everywhere. That's half practitioner, half academic. And I think that's so important to building the next generation of builders. I'm excited in this conversation to just talk about what it really takes to build teams to execute at that high level. I want to tell the world who you are, how awesome you are, and I want to start right there. I want to put you a little bit on the spot. Tell the Lean Builder Nation, who is Derek Sinnott?
That's a very deep question, Adam, to start with. We were having quite a conversation before we started here about all the different things both of us are involved in, I think is the key. As you say, I've been around for quite a while. I've worked in industry. I'm actually, as much as anything, I come from a farming and agricultural background. So really boots on the ground kind of resonates quite a lot with me. I've grown up in that environment. And I trained then as an engineer, civil engineer, and worked in engineering for a number of years, but really loved the training and development and the knowledge development aspects of what I got involved with. I suppose you call it high school. We call it secondary school here, but I didn't really get on. I had no real interest in secondary school or high school. But as I got into engineering and got back into construction, I just really found my niche and found my home in that space, and I love learning. As I developed then, I actually went back into academia and currently work in SETU in Waterford, which is down in the southeast of Ireland. Just anybody who has any semblance of what Ireland is, a very small country, but I'm down in the southeast of the country, or based down here. But what's very interesting about SETU is it's a kind of an industry-orientated higher level education institute. That's a big word, but we're very close to industry in terms of what we do. We're not a fundamentally traditional university style, so we're always really grounded in terms of developing people who are fit for the industry and fit for an evolving industry. And we know that typically around the industry we're in, it's been evolving quite a lot, technology and complexity, I suppose, in the last few years. So I've been involved in academia for a long number of years now, and I look after a master's in construction project management and so on, but very much linked to industry. And throughout that time, I've had my own practice as well, known as Future Focus Solutions, where I work with industry practitioners in the area of lean, operational excellence, efficiency, productivity, team development, and also the link between that and sustainability. And over here, it's a very important part of what we do. And it's not just sustainability in the context of environmental sustainability, but it's around this concept of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. So it's It's looking after both individuals and teams and a bigger picture in terms of how we do business and how we do business really well. So it's good practices looking after people within the business, but also driving on in terms of that sustainable development kind of piece. So you can see I'm involved in Lean Construction Ireland, which is a community of practice really over here. So we have a lot of member organizations who are on the journey, who are effectively on the lean journey. Some of them don't call it lean, but they're on this evolution in terms of how we do our business better. And that's actually, as people who listen probably to this podcast know, that's part of the challenge, is explaining some of that. And then as a toehold within all that, I'm also involved as chair of the Supply Chain Sustainability School here in Ireland, which is evolving school. It was based in the UK, came to Ireland in 2024, and I took over as chair in 2025, October 2025. And that's it's a very interesting school as well, in terms of it's all industry led. So we have partners, industry partners, quite large industry partners who support the development of training and education for all their supply chain. So the school actually offers free supports and training to anybody. Anybody can actually sign up to this, but it's supported by the major companies in the broader built environment construction space. And we provide training in the area of fundamental sustainability, environmental, but also social and governance, and moving more into industrialized construction. We're going to move more into lean as well, and so on. So I'm involved in lots of different things, no different than yourself, but love it all. And maybe that's part of the melee, really, of what's happening. The industry is growing really quickly and moving very quickly. And I'm trying to hang on and trying to be there to support it all.
Yeah, I don't think you try, and I think you're doing. In fact, I'm very confident of that. So that's a lot. And I'm thankful you didn't have more, because I would have had to start taking off some of my logos. And I don't know if the Lean Builder folks are going to, if I take their logo off their podcast. What's driving your passion for doing it? Where does that come from?
I suppose simply, it's really the people who are involved in all this in the journey, and seeing those people grow and achieve an awful lot in terms of the delivery of potentially massive capital projects at the end of the day. But I really love working with people. Some people are struggling to find their space, find their rhythm, supporting those to get that. And then other people and organizations are accelerating and delivering at pace, and it's trying to support them in terms of that growth as well. So it's really organizational growth, but also very much the people within those organizations. I just love, and I love the stories that I hear and support people along the way in that.
And I agree. And I think there's something magnetic about people, right? I met you when we were in Japan, and we were just sitting there in Jason Klaus's class. Shout out Jason Klaus for such an awesome demonstration on learning action perspective. Yeah, I learned a ton in that. But it took one question, and then all of a sudden it was like, man, I've known you forever. And then I come to Ireland with a team of students, and you just show up, right? I think that's what people do, is they just show up, and they're there for people and care, and they want growth, and they want growth in this world. And I think that describes you just absolutely perfect. And I thank you for that. I wish more folks had the care and passion to just change things. When they see something they don't like, just change it. You can do that, right? We have that power. Our words have that power to change things. And the more folks that realize that, the better this world becomes. And so thank you for all that you do. I know it's somewhat of a thankless, at least most of them are probably thankless jobs, right? Like, I feel a lot of your dedication to training the next generation, bringing up the next generation of builders. And so as you spend a lot of time with kind of that next generation of builders, what are the inefficiencies that you see in construction today that you want to help them avoid?
Oh, so many inefficiencies. I suppose the biggest inefficiency is if that's the correct term, is the lack of learning, I think, across the industry in terms of working in silos. And what I mean by that is sometimes even within organizations that you work with, people who are working on similar projects, maybe at different cycles, it's very hard to share the learnings. And sometimes people won't share them because even though they're working even within the same organization, there's a little bit of competition there sometimes. But it's breaking down those barriers and really understanding. Just in recent weeks, we've heard this term collaboration quite a lot. Okay, we're going to collaborate more and going to have better impact. But my question is, what does collaboration actually mean? And then we start unraveling things, and a lot of the time collaboration to people is more meeting, what effectively boils down to more meetings where we talk about stuff. That's not real collaboration kind of piece. And then it ultimately boils down to poor communication. And I always go back to, there's a George Bernard Shaw, it's the biggest myth about communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Very simple term, it's very powerful in terms of that, and gets people just sitting back and thinking. So sometimes the inefficiencies are not necessarily in the processes themselves. We're quite good at executing a particular process, but it's actually figuring out, is that the right process? Are we starting at the right time? Is the sequence correct? All that kind of stuff. So it's a piece that I'm struggling with, or trying to uncover more with teams. How can we more effectively communicate? But one of the things, you go back and you talk about being thankless. Like, I've been around in education and training and coaching. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching, team coaching as well. But what I found now is it can be 15, 20 years since you've met somebody and they've come on in the industry, and you can see now they're leaders in the industry with people who I've taught as undergraduates and maybe as graduate students. And some of them are doing absolutely fantastically well. And you're so proud of it. You don't need a thanks. You can just see it in them. You can see, wow, that person has really achieved a lot in their times. And just last week, I met a guy. He did a construction management course with me nearly 20 years ago. And I met him for the first time since. And he's now one of the top men in a civil engineering company. And he's talking about soil mixing and soil stabilization. And he's now the leader within that organization. And that's he's done it, but I was somewhere part of that journey, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. What does that make you feel? What does that feel like?
At the back of it all, you're proud and you're delighted for him. You're delighted for that person that they have achieved so much. You maybe hope that you were a catalyst in some of that potentially. And I continue to do that. And that's what really drives me on, is to see that.
Yeah, it's those light bulb moments, right? When something just clicks for somebody. To me, there is nothing better than that moment in time, especially when that's my son. For me, that's a really special moment when I can see internally in my family that light bulb moment. Oh, it gets me so excited right there.
What I find it's amazing is when you want them to have the light bulb moment, it mightn't happen. It could be sometime later,
Yes. That's funny, because I was just talking to Jesse Hernandez about how do you engineer your children an advantage. And sometimes what I'm coming to learn is that when you engineer them an advantage, you're actually handicapping them or providing them a disadvantage, right? Because you're expecting them to learn faster through some of the things that are the foundation of what they need to know. And so that can be really hard, especially I look at it at my own children specifically, or students or anybody I'm trying to coach. You got to let them fail just a little bit, not too much, but there is a point of failure that is truly learning. And as bad as we want to skip that because we want to not hurt somebody's feelings, or we want them to accelerate faster, that is the learning that you're talking about that sometimes we're missing. And it's becoming a generational thing too, I think.
Yeah, certainly generational. You see it. I see it every day with project teams, though, as well. Sometimes you go in on a construction site and you have a senior manager, senior leader on the job, and there's something maybe not working very well, and they want you to go in and solve it in that moment. And you can solve it because you have the ability to do it. But it's better just to stand back and observe, figure out what maybe the root cause is or where some improvements are, and then coach those people themselves to actually solve the problem. It does take longer, It's the difference between efficient and effective. The most efficient thing to do is just go in and help them solve it and get over that hump. And we've a large pour of concrete coming, or we have a delivery of a time critical product or system coming to the project. Whereas that might be the most efficient thing to do, but the most effective thing in the medium to long term is just sit back and actually coach and help them facilitate their own learning.
Yeah. And how do you do that best? It does not eat you up sometimes where you're like, man, I got the answer right here and I just want to give it to them. But like, how do you do that best personally?
I suppose maybe if I went back 10, 15 years ago, I would have been that person jumping in straight away. And maybe that's the farmer in me as well. Just you love getting involved. So it's maybe a discipline you learn a little bit as well. So it comes from experience from me. And again, as somebody, and this is the external facilitator, that external voice coming in on a project, is you don't necessarily have skin in the game in that moment. So you actually have a clear mind walking in the gate, and you've maybe been briefed on a particular aspect, but you have to actually synthesize all that information that you get, have a position coming in on the project, and then support as you can. You have to move. One of the big things is, quite often I go into a project or into a team and I have an idea of what I'm going to do with them. But as something unfurls or unfolds, you have to react in that moment, just be able to and support them there in that moment. Whereas what you see a little bit too often is people go in with an agenda and they want to achieve the agenda. Yeah. And they completely miss the point.
Yeah, you're describing the difference in between a consultant and a coach to me, right? A consultant has their agenda. They're going in there. They're going to do what the organization paid them to do, which might be this tool or this process or this thing. Whereas a coach is going to go there, be on the sideline, be in the moment, but yet still removed, not biased, emotionless in this thing. And that's why I tell people coaches are so important. The greatest athletes in the world, Olympic athletes, all have coaches. We have Olympic athletes on our job sites. That's what we are, right? If we're not taking care of our bodies, if we're not getting the sleep, if we're not getting the nutrition, if these things affect our performance. And if we want to be high performing at all aspects, then we need to start acting like a high performing athlete. But to me, like, you nailed it. A person that goes into a room with an agenda, and I even like on these podcasts, I have a list of questions here. Yes, and some guests want them. Thank you, because I know you likely wanted a nice list of questions and be rigid and all that. And you were texting me last night, hey man, are you gonna send that thing out? And to me, the best conversations are where we show up and we're just ourselves and genuine and authentic, and whatever comes out. And I want to talk about high performing teams and high performing people, and I want people to get to know you. And the way we do that is be authentic and genuine and just have conversation so that people can not just know you, but feel you.
Yeah. I think it's important. As I was just saying, to become authentic, that's so important. And quite often you have to walk shoulder to shoulder with somebody just for a little bit of time. So I love just walking a job with a few people and getting to know the people on the job as well. And it's amazing. I find that it's not focused on me too much, but I find a lot of people don't even do that. They just want to go. It's amazing. It just comes natural to me. Go in. You're interested in how the job is going. You're interested in how things operate. And you're just asking that person, how are you getting on? How are things going? Where's your struggles, or what's going well? And suddenly it's unfurled an awful lot very quickly. I think maybe that's just in your nature, but it's a skill you can learn as well. I'm not sure I had that skill 20 years ago either, but it's something I enjoy.
Yeah, just being curious, not judgmental, as old Ted Lasso, my buddy Mike Childs would say, approaching things from a inquisitive mindset, right? Going out. I love walking the project with people. I love standing on a job and watching the trade workers engage in what they're doing until they feel uncomfortable. And they're like, dude, why are you looking at me, man? And it's, I'm just analyzing your process. Why do you do that before this? And why have you ever thought about maybe using one of these? And to me, like, that's ultimate care. That's respect for people, right? Like LCI, Lean Construction Institute, and our in the US, that we love to talk about respect for people and what it is and this and that. That's it, y'all, right? Going out, engaging with the people, making their work easier. Shout out Felipe, easier, better, and faster for construction, right? That's what we want to do. And that's what we're doing when we go out there and we engage with the workers and we try and listen to their problems, their issues, and we ask good questions as leaders, right?
Yeah.
When at what point did that switch turn on to you, for you, that asking good questions leads to better relationships?
I think it was an evolution of dealing with people over time as well. And the culture within construction has changed over the years as well. We've very much moved from that command and control model to that support model as well, and more level leadership and looking at what leadership looks like and who are leaders within the organization. So it was an evolution really for me as well. And just, I suppose, we do all this. Why do we do it all? We want to see a positive impact in terms of whatever is happening. So there has to be an outcome to this. There has to be a benefit, or there has to be a reaction to what that action is. So over time, you can see what worked well, what didn't work well. Some people need to have that arm around the shoulder kind of piece. Some people just need to be set straight and said, this is not working. We need to look at alternatives. Have you considered? So it depends, as very much that person that's there. I think when you come to respect for people, number one thing within construction is actually seeing the people, is actually seeing whoever it is and recognizing that they are a person. And no matter where they are, right down on the ground, the people who add value are really the people who are actually just nailing a nail into a piece of formwork or whatever their piece is. And sometimes senior management don't recognize it. They see themselves as the most important person in the project, but it's actually the people who are sweeping the floor, who are hanging that door, etc. As we know, people who are in this space. So it's actually communicating, this is what we're doing, and maybe how we can improve on that. But it's reflecting it back to the people on the ground that get to the gemba, get to the shop floor, go look, see, all that kind of stuff. And even we have a lot of people in the industry that will walk the job, but they'll see very little because they're too busy walking. So that direct standing back and observing is just the key part of it, isn't it? And you see so much when you stop for a moment. And that's where we have that term, better, faster, together. That's what we use in Lean Construction Ireland, is better, faster, together is our motto. And it's really that togetherness. But we want to deliver better, and quality is something that we're trying to improve on all the time. And as projects become more complex, quality and bigger teams and so on, it's something we try and focus on an awful lot.
Yeah, I like that. Better, faster, together. I think that says a lot of the same things as what we're talking about. I want to go back to sustainability for a minute, because we were over there in a sustainability competition.
Yeah.
And you explained it, and you hit it on this show already as well, but sustainability in Ireland is different than what Americans know sustainability to be. And so from the American standpoint, it's like green building, right? When you say sustainable, I'm like, oh boy, we've got lead credits and we've got to go buy stuff local. And that's what sustainability to us here in the United States means. And so I would like for you to broaden our opinions, our understanding on what sustainability is in Ireland, and what are those steps that we can really help to expand our view on sustainability here in the US?
Okay, again, it depends on who you're speaking to. It means different things to different people. But for me, really, sustainability is sustainable business development in that sense. And I'll explain it a little bit more. It's economic development, goes back to the UN SDG Sustainable Development Goals as well. So it's quite a complex web.
Sounds like lean.
But they're simpatico. It's the same story, really, that we tell in a different way to different audiences. But so the sustainability is a very broad church in terms of what it's understood to be here. If we try and break it down in terms of sustainability, can be the financial sustainability of a business. It can be the environmental sustainability piece as well. It can be around biodiversity and so on. What we try and do is we try and I suppose to simplify it or to put it into some kind of context, is we integrate it as part of ESG, environmental, social, and governance. So you do have that environmental part to it. So we want better performing buildings. We talk about circular economy, so recyclability, as well as part of that whole circular journey. That brings us into design for manufacture and assembly and disassembly. So now you have different design kind of pieces that unfold in that kind of whole area as well. And I'm happy to delve down into a lot of that, because offsite manufacture, 3D volumetric, we use the concept of modern methods of construction. You tend to use that kind of industrialized construction or the industrialized approach. Same thing. So we can park that just for the moment. If we look at environmental, social, and governance, actually the construction industry is a really good example of the social side of it. And the number one social good is we can make sure that everybody goes home as well as they arrive to work. So health and safety, looking after our people, our well-being, both on the job in terms of ultimate safety, but making sure that they're productive in their work and they're happy in their work. That's a really tangible social good in terms of that piece. So reducing absenteeism because we have a better working environment. That's a really social good. But also then the social piece is how maybe we employ locals in a community to work on our project. So you're now embedding with the community as well. So that capability development of the community. So if you work in a particular area that maybe there was unemployment or lack of skilled labor, and now suddenly you develop a highly technical lab or something like that in the area, you bring those people on the journey. So that's the social kind of piece. It's a lot broader than that. Training and development, the 8 ways of lean underutilized skills and talent. Social good is to develop the capability of the people that we have. That's again a social good. And then the governance piece is really strong in terms of that we're actually running our businesses both efficiently but effortlessly as well, in terms of we're tax compliant, we're again social good. We know modern slavery in terms of how we're supplying goods and services, that kind of stuff. Anti-bribery and corruption is a big thing around here in Ireland and across Europe now. There's a lot of training and emphasis around that kind of stuff. So that's both a social good, but also a highly very much within the governance space as well. So if you bring all those 3 back together, quite succinctly, if you do those well, which we do quite a lot very well, you now have a really good, strong, ethical, profitable company or organization.
Yeah, so I love where you're going with that, and especially the social side, the taking care of people. I know when we were in Ireland, we went and visited just a random job site. We were able to talk to the project director, and he actually talked to us about how he communicates with the neighbors, right? There is a way that he goes about, and it's required by law that he communicates his plan for the next week or 2 to the neighbors. And when noise and vibration and all that was going on, it was just, in fact, he explained it to us like, hey, usually in the US, like when the person has capital and they're going to build, they rule the roost. However, in Ireland, despite the people who have capital, it's the people who have been there who rule the roost, who we need to adjust our approach to because they've been there. And I think that's part of that social side of it, that I really care about a long-term relationship, and bringing that into the sustainability piece, I think it's brilliant.
Just in terms of that community liaison, it's very important. Again, it's evolved over the last 20 years. Like the easiest way to solve a problem is to actually mitigate it happening at the beginning at all. So by actually going out and talking to the community about logistics, or about that this is what we require, there's a large piece of equipment coming to the construction site, like in built up areas, can mitigate an awful lot of problems down the line. And people tend to say, okay, we understand your struggles, this is what we need to do, and they'll suck it up, they'll go with the flow because they know it's for the greater good. Whereas if you roll down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning bringing in a large crane and nobody's known about it, you can end up in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
So those kind of simple things work really well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, okay, so I'm starting to understand kind of what this word means to you, the sustainability piece of it. Now, can you link in the supply chain and what this school, the supply chain sustainability school, is all about?
Again, I suppose who are the people who ultimately deliver value for us are our supply chain. In Ireland and across Europe, we very much rely on our supply chain to deliver a project, let it be a product or a service. So through our trade partners, or we call them subcontractors. So they're the people, and quite often they're very small organizations, are much smaller than the general contractor, main contractor on a project. So whenever I go back and I, even if I'm doing a last planner session or talking about last planner to a group of people, I said, what are we ultimately trying to do? And they said, we're trying to deliver a project. And I say, we're trying to help facilitate our subcontractors to do better for themselves, which ultimately they do better for us. So that's in terms of the delivery of the project itself. If we look at the supply chain school, it's actually educating that supply chain and how they can deliver their product or service better for the main contractor or for us, the client, or whoever that is. So that's really what we're trying to do, because in a lot of cases, as I said, these are quite small organizations and they don't have the ability to develop those skills and knowledges themselves.
Yeah, and not just the ability, but I think there's a lack of visibility all the way through to the point of installation. Right? Like they're so busy pumping supplies out that they don't necessarily have vision into what the end product with what is being created with their products. I think a lack of that vision certainly just isolates or silos those organizations a little bit. I find it interesting that those two pieces of the business are often, I don't want to say neglected, but forgotten about maybe. The trade worker who installs it, and then the vendor who is sending the products to be installed, right? And without those two, we don't have anything. We have a bunch of paper and meeting minutes sitting
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Absolutely. And sometimes we forget about that very much within supply chain. Without those coming together effectively and efficiently, we have nothing at all. So it's a vital component in terms of the whole delivery, design, procurement, delivery of a project. Like with those, that's where I see there's an awful lot of opportunity as well, taking over the conversation piece, but we often look just at the construction phase, but it's everything that precedes that is so complicated. And there's such an opportunity in that space that we're only starting to unravel in terms of that key decision made 18 months or 2 years ago to do X has had Y impact. Guys, we better learn what that is going forward or get all our supply chain in as early as possible. We've issues here. It's not issues, but public works contracts are quite complex in Ireland and in Europe around the procurement of contractors, design people, and so on. So this concept of early contractor involvement, moving to that IPD model, but it's difficult in public works contracts here. So we're that earlier contractor involvement, because they're the people who have the knowledge, really.
Yeah. I find it very interesting because the early on involvement is super critical in order to get a constructible project. And I think the use of pulling details that are necessary out of a contractor, right? So designers not just go in and design the ones they think that the contractor needs, but just ask the contractor, hey, what details should I tighten up for you? And we'll be able to tell you which ones are confusing to us. But you're right, like the early on decisions impact construction. And I've sat through a piece of Charlie Dunn's presentation called The 90%. And he talks about the 90% of the ability to change the cost, schedule, quality, or safety of a project is early on, right? It's early on pre construction. And then the 10% opportunity is right there in the construction. And I find it interesting because the same is on the flip side, right? Where, hey, 10% of the capital that our clients are investing right now is going to live on for 90% of the life cycle of that building. So the decisions that we made 2 years before not only do they impact just construction, but then they live on for the 50, 100-year life cycle of that building. Those decisions can have compounding effects. And oftentimes it's, hey, do you want to save $100,000 by taking off R19 insulation to R16? And people are like, yeah, let's do it. And they don't realize, yeah, you just ruined your insulation effect in your home or your wall or whatever. So your heating bill is now going to be 10x that for the rest of the life of the building. And so, yeah, I think what you're doing there is awesome, right? Let's educate folks. Let's figure out, like, how do we get people in early? How do we bring contractors in early to get the right products for the right use?
The challenge is a little bit is that they say, we do that already. This is why we've done it. So this is a new, so nobody really knows what good looks like. And it goes back to that piece of what is collaboration? What does collaboration look like at that phase? And what are the benefits? So you made a very pertinent point about that 90%. But sometimes people actually don't know how to extract that value because we've never done it before.
Yeah.
So again, that's the piece. We have to spend more and more time in that area. And sometimes it can be quite boring because you're, oh, that's 2 years away. We'll worry about it then, or we'll think about it. But it's actually the discipline and the opportunity, recognizing the opportunity there. And from my perspective, I think very few people have it cracked. We're getting there, but I think we've a journey to go.
Yes, 100%. So no one knows what good looks like. Help us understand, what does good look like? Run me through that.
I'm not sure anybody, like, what does good look like? Good looks like better than before. That's one metric, which we've yet to really understand. And it comes back to that learning from different industries. I actually recorded for Lean Construction Ireland, I record kind of webinars as well. And I recorded a webinar where there was a presentation about the amount of planning goes into shut down a power plant or power station, critical works for 4 to 6 weeks, critical shutdown, infrastructure improvement. And it can be up to a year's worth of planning just for that 4 to 6 weeks of work. Is that what good looks like? I'm not sure, but that's what that requires, because that amount of planning ensures that a phenomenal amount of work is able to be achieved in that 4 to 6 week period of the shutdown of the plant. I think I'm avoiding the answer because I actually don't know what that answer is exactly. We're always in pursuit of perfection. What's perfection there? I'm not sure, but I certainly know that it's an awful lot better than what we do at the moment.
Man, I respect that so much. Transparency and vulnerability in that was beautiful. Thank you. Thanks for not giving me any line on bullshit. That saved a whole lot of time there. Here, so you're doing all this stuff, right? You see all the logos around. I'm curious, what personal rules or systems help you stay effective?
Personal rules or systems to stay effective. Wow. Sometimes it's do as I say, not as I do now. So that's another vulnerability there.
Not a feeling, man. Yeah. That's the hard part of being the lean. Hey, let's do it better, y'all. Let's try something, experiment. And then all of a sudden it's, hey, you're not using Kanban right now. It's, yeah, I am. Yes. Yeah. Be the example you seek. That's the hardest one.
So listen, I find that I've been on this journey for quite a long time. I continue to be on the journey. I love balancing. But I think everything that I do in my head anyway, maybe people see it as a bit nuts, but it's very complementary. It's about ultimately delivering a product, let it be a project or a product at the end of the day, better. And everything that works, it's people. It comes back to the people within that. And then it's the ESG, the sustainability. And ultimately, it's the economic development within a business. There's nothing, I love working with businesses that are growing very quickly. We know this around data centers and so on. It's a very busy sector of the business. Irish construction companies have done very well in the DC space at the moment because we've delivered a lot of good stuff. But nationally, internationally, across Europe, we have a lot of Irish companies who are founded in Ireland going to the States and doing a lot of work over there because we're able to deliver at pace. I love all of that, but it's effectively still telling the same story and working with the individuals behind the delivery of those. To be honest, I find it very busy, but very rewarding and easy from my point of view in terms of that. Yeah, I don't use Kanban.
Fair enough.
But I try to be as effective as I can in terms of offering value to the people I work with. Is that a bullshido answer? Is that right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but how do you operate so high performing, right? You're obviously getting shit done.
Yeah.
How? You just like, how do you know what to do the next day? I'm sure you got
I'm pretty well organized. I have 3-week look ahead, 3 weeks that's at least full. And then thereafter that, about my diary is about 20-25% full out for the next 6 to 8 weeks kind of stuff. But as people come and projects roll around between training, working with different teams, working with different individuals back in the university, I do a lot of research in the university, and it tends to be with industry people. I really love working. It goes back. It's another story in terms of I get the best value, and this is selfish on my behalf, working with people and individuals who don't realize their innate ability to do research or develop something or become better themselves. So I really love working on research master's programs or PhD programs with people who are working in industry. The challenge with them is not their enthusiasm. It's actually, the challenge is actually framing that into an academic kind of a narrative. I'm working with a couple of people at the moment, and they're so far ahead in their brains about what they want to do because they've experienced all these troubles and I want to solve them. And I'm trying to hold them back, and I'm trying to say, okay, we need to put a structure around this in terms of it making sense and being robust in terms of what we do. So I meet those people. I tend to meet them at the weekends because that's when their brains have shut off from work. So that's how I manage my time. And the impact then they produce a lot. It's getting selfish. They produce an awful lot of good stuff that I might leverage for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Why wouldn't you want to highlight industry? That's one of the things I've realized coming into the academia world is, man, there's so much research out there that doesn't help the industry. And that sucks, man. Those people, in my opinion, are wasting their time. You're much better off finding a real industry problem and going and trying to help to solve something, because there's plenty of them, right? Pull your problem. There are a million problems out there. Pick one. But yet sometimes we have research on, things that I don't find are true value add to the industry. And oftentimes those are associated with grant dollars, right? Trying to bring monies into a university and that sort of thing. So I'm still kind of learning. I probably shouldn't go too far on that one before I get a target on my head. So we're gonna keep moving forward here on that. Onto a better note. But so what's next for you, or what are you working on right now that you're super proud of, that you want to show off to the Lean Builder Nation?
To show off, I'm not sure about. Listen, I'm Irish. We don't tend to show off that much. I think maybe we're quietly confident behind the scenes.
Let's split the G. I hear you show that off quite a bit. Yeah.
We try. That's an easy one enough, because enough practice splitting the G is easy. It makes that easy. For people who don't know, you need to drink a pint of Guinness to understand it, or maybe several pints of Guinness. I suppose what I want to do, what I'm doing more and more, is getting out and sharing the knowledge that I have. I know I've had a discussion with you about getting my own podcast up and on the road, and that's going to happen. I'm making a commitment about it and I give an example. Another thing I'm involved in, I'm very super proud to be involved in it, it's a competition called the Irish Construction Excellence Awards. And there's lots of awards out there. I'm particularly proud to have been associated as a judge with this one because it's very robust. You have a paper-based submission about your project. But last Thursday and Friday, I spent the day interviewing 24 different companies about their submissions, where I really got in depth about what their submission was about and the people behind it and why they achieved what they achieved. So my journey is actually to try and share that learning back to the community again. And I'm trying to figure out what that right form is. So that's certainly, and I think the podcast kind of style is the best way to do it if people are interested in it. I really enjoy the coaching, the one-on-one coaching kind of piece. And I want to do more of that because I think there's a big impact in terms of there's a big need out there for people to, as we alluded to earlier, you said quite eloquently, like every team, every really high performing team doesn't just have one coach. They have specialist coaches in different areas, and you take on coaches at different times. So I think there's a big importance. There's a dearth of that kind of piece out there. I do work with people on a one-to-one basis, and I want to do more and more of that as well, because if we can support them to do better and they can support their teams to do better, it's a multiplier effect. So I love that kind of piece as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, it's a big statement right there. Podcast coming out soon, huh? What does this look like? When
You
is
have to go back and tell you to cut that section out.
Sorry, cannot do. No, sir. But do you have a name? What's it look like? When's it coming? How can we follow?
I have a name in the back of my head, but it's coming pretty soon, I think. But I just want to make sure that it's impactful, really. It's really about what's innovative. It's what's leading out there in terms of the construction industry. There's so many good things happening in pockets that we just don't see. And I want to get that out to the wider world. And part of it is selfish again. I learn every day I speak to people. So it's brilliant.
Amen. So a podcast is a big commitment, Derek. I'm sitting here thinking, like, when we first started this podcast, and that was almost 4.5, 5 years ago now. So we've been at it for a while, and it's a labor of love, man, right? This isn't, at first it was like 10 people watching this thing. Now we get maybe 75 to 100 people watching every episode, and that's freaking awesome, incredible, because the goal was one person. But what I find oftentimes is, like, people also use it to weaponize it against me, right? Not everybody who watches it is a firm believer that this stuff works. I even have subcontractors or trade partners from my project, right? Because I'm still on mega projects, and they'll come up to me and be like, hey, I listened to that last episode and X, Y, and Z, and give me a little heck back. And so I'm curious, like, what do you say to those non-believers out there?
It can be difficult in the moment, but when you hear that, but challenge is good, I think, because you learn yourself from the challenge in terms of how people perceive what you're saying, because we have our own perspective of how we're communicating, right? And we think it's great, and we're trying to communicate effectively and efficiently. So the first piece is when sometimes you have to get over the shock of what they've said, but then it offers the opportunity to challenge your own thoughts, but maybe opens up that route for dialogue or communication to them, where they might never have said anything and still had that same approach. You're not going to win everybody over. That's, people differ in terms of their perspective and their beliefs and their values. We live to the values of an organization, but everybody has their own individual values. But those values change over time as well. And it's to recognize that. And again, it just goes back to education. You might have said something 10 years ago in a lecture room that doesn't resonate with somebody until today or tomorrow or sometime. So it can be difficult in the moment sometimes, but I welcome it as much as possible. I get disappointed when I deal with groups and they don't challenge me. And because then you're going to say it's not hitting. I'm not challenging them, or either nobody believes what I'm trying to say. And sometimes that happens too. All I can say is, when you have to be able to challenge and be challenged. And that's part of our evolution, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've realized over the kind of last 5 or so years is when I get challenged and I start to feel a little frustrated over that challenge, I have something to learn, right? Like, that's on me. That's not on that person. Like, what I've found is when I lean into that, I really start to discover what it is this universe is trying to teach me. But it takes me leaning into it and not running away from it.
I teach a number of courses on a master's in construction project management masters, but I met a graduate from that program very recently. And he was one of my most challenging students, not in a very negative way, but he came down and he would always challenge what I was saying. And he actually came back when I met him recently, and he said, listen, I was under pressure in work as well. So when he came to class, it was a release valve for him. Just, that's fine. I thought that was brilliant that he told me that as well. That maybe I was a little bit of a punching bag for him, but it was fine.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, we're coming back over there in November for another competition. Is there any way we can link up our schools for one team? Could we do that with the project management track?
Potentially, I will go in competition against you this year.
You don't want to fight against us, man. You don't want that, my friend. But we're partnering with international universities, and we're trying to find our partner right now. Would certainly be interested. I don't know who we need to talk to or connect, but man, that'd be a good time right there.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. If you wanted to explain what the competition was, we glossed over it at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I was fortunate enough that Clemson asked me to take a group of students with a few other coaches to Ireland. And what they do is essentially get an RFP for a project in Ireland. There were 4 different tracks. One was construction management, one was project management, one was sustainability and environmental, social, and governance, which you had covered very well. And the other one was design build. And so they essentially get a project that was a real project in Ireland a couple of 5-10 years ago. And they actually have people who built the project that will judge and decide who the winners are. So they'll have about 8 hours to put together a response to the proposal. And then they'll have another 3 or 4 hours to put together a presentation in order to sell themselves as the firm that should be building or managing the project. And it was cool, man. We went over there. We got 2 third-place trophies and a Best Speaker award, which was really cool. Shout out to Melina with Clemson, who pulled that Best Speaker award, and Charlie Rohaley. And we had some really awesome kids over there, students over there, not kids.
Yeah.
Kids.
No, and I really enjoyed engaging with them as well. It was great, good fun. They were very enthusiastic, even though some of them had traveled a long way and didn't get much rest and so on. Yeah, it was fantastic. It was great to meet them.
Your participation was grand, my friend. I very much appreciated that so much. So
yeah, so you're welcome back, and yeah, we'll link up about doing a bit more in terms of maybe together on that one. When it's in November.
First week in November, that's right. Associated Schools of Construction Region 8 competition. Yes, sir. Okay, so we're coming down towards the end. I got a couple of quick questions I want to hit you with. The Lean Builder tradition. I want to know, what's a word or phrase that just drives you nuts, that you just can't stand to hear?
Can't.
Ah, yes. Why? What's the irk there?
There's always a workaround. It might be a constraint, it might be a blockage, but there's no it can't. It's what we need to do in order to achieve this is what we need to get to. So that phrase drives me absolutely bananas altogether. Now, I don't say it, but internally it does. So it's it goes back to language and communication. It's the effectiveness of communication in terms of how we do it. So that word is very negative. It's potentially what I need to do to achieve, or what's in my way at the moment, kind of thing. So that word can't.
I like it. And my wife just came out here and looked at me and said, "You better take care of yourself today, because they're all going to the beach, and I'm going to spend the day prepping for this week because I haven't been feeling super, super hot." And so I say all that just to lead into this. Like, how does Derek take care of himself with all this craziness, madness going on in your life? How do you take care of yourself?
I did tell you I'm a farmer by background, and I have
more work.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some people perceive it as work. I go out and I'll do some work outside. I live in an old building. I bought a place in 2018. And it's a big old house. It's nearly 300 years old, between 250 and 300 years old. It has old stables, and you can see the original wall of one of the sheds here, what we call a shed, behind me. It's on 50 acres. So I go out and it's a lot of woodland, and I go and talk to the trees quite a lot.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much.
Sometimes I get lost down there and I have to talk to them for quite a while to bring me back. That's my getaway. So I'm very lucky that I have that escape, and I'll work, but it's not work to me. That's my R&R.
Man, that's so cool. So what does a conversation with the tree sound like?
Sometimes it's, how did I get into this trouble and how do I get myself out of it?
Yeah.
It can be quite like I get quite stressed sometimes myself, and I need that breakaway in terms of doing what I do, because it's pressure in the role as well. And then sometimes it's been thankful, actually. I love just going and relaxing down there. We have a lot of wildlife in the forestry area, woodland area. and it's just been present sometimes. So it depends on the day, really.
Yeah, no, I like it. I do my best thinking in situations like that. Like, especially, I tell people often that I talk to the building. Right? 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you go walking through the building, just listening, and you can hear the leaks in the building, or the air handling unit strains, or the pumps that aren't working in rhythm, or whatever it is. When you're really listening intently, you can hear it, you can see it, you can feel it. And talking it out with an inanimate object is always an interesting, even though your situations, they're living items as well, but
But
not
still,
capable of talking. So
a lot, yeah. But still, it's that observation and listening, and it's more than listening with your ears. It's you feel it.
listen with your eyes, listen with your heart. Yes, listen with your
Yeah.
hands. Amen. That's awesome. What did we not cover that the world needs to know about Derek Sinnott?
I don't know. What do you need to know? We've discussed I'm continuously learning. I'm always open for new opportunities in a sense. And I like to travel quite a bit. So a lot of people see that you have to separate work and life an awful lot. I see it as it's a journey through life, and I just happen to really enjoy what I do, and one rolls into the next. So it's nothing new. I struggle quite a bit to make sense of the why sometimes, but then I just come back to myself, and this is who I am and what I want to be. I suppose I always wanted to be, in my head, to be successful was to be the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar industry, but it's actually not me. It's my value is different, and how I add value is different than maybe that. And it took me a long time to recognize that myself, because I always challenge myself to do a little bit better. But sometimes doing better is by supporting the people around me.
Yeah, I think all the time doing better is by supporting the people around me. I think a life of service to others is what doing better, or this lean thing, or this sustainability thing, or to me, whatever we're trying to, whatever word we want to insert here, it's like, hey, how do we set life up better for the people around us in the future? And at that point, you can call it lean, you can call it sustainability, you can call it flow, you can call it religion, worship, whatever. But at that point, that other person feels and knows that they are cared for, like truly cared for as a person. And man, that's the ultimate sacrifice, is serving other people, even when you know that it serves you no good, especially when you know it serves you no good. And I think that's what lean builders do right there.
Yeah. I thought just checking in with people, checking in with each other every now and again. And something I've become more aware of. Just saying hi. Doesn't really have to be anything in particular, but just checking in with people from all over. It's just important as men that we do that. It's not been soft or anything. It's just, how are you doing? Grand. I'm grand. That's all.
And I picked that up when I went over there. Yeah. Yeah. We have the Old Dog Network, and that's why we do that. You can see the old dog underneath me here. There's 50 superintendents across the country, and we get together every 2 weeks, and we learn together, and we share wisdom together. And we've got a school page, and it's exactly that. Every one of us is checking on every one of us, and just to make sure we're good, because it's lonely out there on the jobs. It's hard. This business is not a slam dunk, right? We don't have the coaches we need. We don't have the facilities we need. We don't have the people we need sometimes, but we absolutely don't have the processes or production planning that we need on these jobs. But yet we still win every day. And man, it gets harder and harder. But there's people like Derek out there who are like change makers, right? Making change in the industry. And man, I am very grateful for that. I'm grateful for you, sir, as we go out. Yeah, please.
And the same, I go back as well. There's a big community of us out there, and we try to keep in contact as well. And we're a growing network of people who have a common interest in that, I think. So I welcome anybody else who is touching base in terms of engaging with this. Is touch base with me, touch base with everywhere. Just say hello kind of thing. And who knows what can happen. It can be fantastic. Some great, like it was just by chance. We met in Japan and then back over here. And who knows where our journey is going to take us over the next period of time. But sometimes you just have to go out and be open and receptive to not knowing what's going to happen. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think
Absolutely.
that's a beautiful way. For me, I'm going to take myself off on that last comment, but I'm going to leave you up here. And what I want is for you to just roll, man. Tell the world whatever they need to hear. Prep them for your podcast coming up. Where can we find you? Like, you just do your thing. Take as long as you need.
It's not going to be long.
As soon as you're done, I'll hit the outro and we'll close this thing out, man. Derek, thank you so much for coming on. You're an idol to me, man. I really appreciate who you are, what you do, and like you said, I look forward to where our relationship's going to take us. So take us out, whatever you want. The stage is yours.
It's a lot of pressure, Adam. Listen, thanks very much for having me on. I really enjoy our conversations. I suppose if there was one message, it's just to say, particularly to the audience here, it's a global network. We're very close nowadays. I might be in Ireland, but we're just across the pond from each other. We speak a common language in terms of this space. So I very much look forward to engaging with you somewhere along the lines, either here or there, or touch base with me. So thanks very much for your time.